exactly. But they did tend to be expats, and that was fine. But it wasn't just that reunited us. It
Hmm.
was also, like I've signed up to a netball event. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
about
yeah, of
netball.
course.
It's really big in the UK, so it was really random to find that there was a netball uh, kind of activity happening in Paris, and I went one time with the intention of just because I wanted to do netball. And then I met two girls who became really good friends. Just that one time, we all went one time, and then that was it. We just exchanged numbers and we just kept contact ever since then, and we're really close now. So yeah,
Nice.
just random things like that. It was like it was destiny. It's meant to happen.
Cool. So you said, for example, in the embassy, like for work, you had a 6-month contract, and then directly they made you permanent position, uh, or
I
it
had
was an
6 months
extension,
and
was
then an extension.
progressive. Okay.
In France, you have a maximum of 18 months, I think, extension on a
Mm,
temporary contract. And then once they reached that, they were like, they have to make a decision whether to keep me or let me go. And they kept me. So, yay.
okay. Good for you. In any way,
Yeah.
like it was that the moment that you decided that you wanted to stay? Like it was when you had a permanent contract in your hands, or before that you already had it clear that even if it wasn't going to work with the embassy, for example, you would like to stay in France for a long, or in Paris for a longer time?
Um, I don't think I had any clear moment when I was like, okay, I definitely want to stay. But I remember really being, now you mention it, like I'm just thinking about now, I remember really being concerned about not having a permanent contract. So obviously that shows that I did want to
Mm,
stay. I think it was more I wasn't ready to go back to the UK, and there was still more to experience in Paris. But yeah, I think I'd already made that decision. That's why I was kind of pushing as well. Like I was pushing for them to make my contract permanent, and I did have a few backup plans as well. I had some interviews in different organizations as well.
nice.
So yeah, I guess the decision was already made.
Cool. What about culturally shocks? Like, did you have any like hard moment culturally wise, or trying difficulties adapting to Paris, for example? Do you remember a specifically hard moment for you?
Um, Culturally, I think something that was quite difficult was the French people are very different to British people, especially in the northwest. Like people from Manchester are known for being very friendly. The people in Paris are known for not being super friendly, and that is the stereotype. And if we take that too personally, we can really get pulled into that, and it can be quite shocking. I remember working with somebody once, and they described it as having PTSD from having lived in Paris. Whenever
Okay.
they go into quite extreme, but some people have very they're just not used to the reactions, which can be interpreted as being rude, but it's just directness, and that's just the way they are. Not everybody, but in general, it's big generalizations here. But if you're not used to it, or especially if you're coming from North America, where everyone's very open and friendly, um, it can be quite shocking to the system. So I think there were certain times when I was like, "What's wrong with these people? Why are they so mean?" But it's so easy to take it personally, but it's not a personal thing. So that would be one thing. And then also in terms of finding apartments, that's just an absolute nightmare. The system and having
Big
to
cities in
turning up,
Europe. Oh my gosh.
nightmare. Yeah. That
Yeah.
was really tricky. And you have to navigate all that by yourself, and yeah,
So
challenging.
there was some kind of system in there that you didn't like. Is there a system for finding a flat in Paris, to be honest? Like, or it's just like being a little bit lucky and having contacts to, I know someone who
It's
knows someone.
kind of like that, knowing somebody who knows someone, getting lucky, um, let's say embellishing the truth on certain things when it comes to your dossier, like your folder that you hand in.
Hmm.
But yeah, look, luck comes down to it a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
And just being really persistent and having to drop your standards in a way as well. Not to the point where you're going to go somewhere where you really don't want to go, but the dream apartment that you have in your head, you might not get it. So maybe apply for everything and just see what you like and who accepts your dossier. That's it.
I see. I mean, I suppose the prices also increased during these 10 years you lived in Paris. Did the city change a lot during these 10 years that you were there? Not only price wise,
Honestly,
but in general?
yeah. When I look back now, like when I moved out of Paris this February, and I was packing up my stuff and I was looking back and I was like, oh man, yeah, like taking me back to 2015 and everything. Things have changed in terms of, I don't know, like this very subtle changes. Fashion wise, things, everything changes fashion wise anyway, but in Paris, it was quite conservative. And I feel like now with the Y2K vibe and everything's kind
Mm,
of going androgynous style, I know that's kind of like a global thing, but I feel like before Paris had still held on to its a typical Parisian look, whereas now it's a bit more, I would say, more New Yorky even.
okay.
Um, Apartments, yeah, I mean, like the prices have just skyrocketed. It's insane now. When I think about how much my last apartment cost when I moved in 2020, it's probably gone up by at least 25%. And yeah,
Yeah, I
mad.
think that's a global thing. I
Yeah.
actually interviewed another coach some episodes ago who helps expats quitting alcohol, Susan. She's
Yeah,
Irish,
Susan,
but
yeah.
she lived there. Yeah,
Yeah,
so she lived in Paris actually, and now she moved outside of the suburb, like of the city center in the suburbs, also because has
yeah.
a family, etc. But also because price. When she arrived 20 years ago to Paris, or more than 20 years ago in Paris, you could live in the center with whatever you had, no, even with a
Yeah.
rather small job, and now I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's the tendency that we are seeing in all big cities in whole Europe, probably.
Yeah.
But
I definitely feel that when I moved to Paris when I was at the embassy, even on a smaller salary, I was able to live very, very comfortably in
hmm,
Paris. And my apartment was bigger than the apartment that I had like 4 years ago when I moved in. So yeah, big changes.
it happens, I suppose. Like it's part of life. It's tricky. Not everything goes up, and the salaries doesn't. But yeah, uh, without entering too much in politics, um, if you want, we can enter. I don't have a problem with that. But when so when it's the moment that you like realize what I'm doing in Paris, when it's the moment that you decide to go back to UK, why the movement, like the repatriation, let's call it, like going back home, um,
Yeah.
realization.
Oh, so I would say in last year, 2023, I started to have that feeling. I was starting to just feel like I want more space, and I want more greenery, and I miss nature. And
Mm,
I was missing nature a lot. I actually set up a hiking group with a few of my girlfriends, and I organized it every month because I missed hiking and I missed nature
okay,
so much. So every
cool.
month we would go out into Ile-de-France, like, and go for a hike around there. But it wasn't enough. I needed more greenery. And when I've been living in a concrete jungle effectively for the past 10 years, and um, the calling was there. And I didn't want to listen to it for a while because all my life was in Paris. All my friends were in Paris. Everything I knew on my adult life, I lived in Paris.
Mm,
And it was quite challenging because I was resisting that calling. And then after a while, I would say November last year, I just had that moment when I was like, I think it's time to go back. Cry that out for maybe about a week. And then things set in motion. And then I tested the water actually first. I set I wrote my letter to the agency to give my apartment back. I just had it typed out, and I said to myself, if I can type this out and see how I feel afterwards, I don't have to send it. Let's just test. And I did it, and it felt okay. And then I printed it out, and it felt okay. And then I put it in a letter, and I was like, it feels okay. It's a little bit scary, but it's okay. So
Hmm.
I felt like it was good. It was like an aligned decision. And then yeah, everything kind of just moved on from that.
You were not working for the embassy anymore at the point of time. You're
No,
already coaching, or
yes, I worked at the embassy for 4 years, and then I did a few other jobs in French companies.
Hmm.
And then it was at the beginning of last year that I I started a job in a consulting firm, and instantly I knew that it wasn't the right thing for me. The coaching thing was already in my mind, and I
Hmm.
was like, you know what, Anna, you've got to go with this now. So last year was a big year for me. There's a lot of changes, and yeah, so I was already working on my coaching thing, which allowed me to have that freedom. Yeah,
Cool. So you probably would say that the hardest part of the decision of going back to the UK is, of course, like the emotional part of friends and
yeah.
people that you leave behind. If you liked this short video out of the full episode, you can find the link to it around here and in the description below. Of course, if you are also interested in checking out other episodes, please subscribe and like.